Right now on KGW News at noon, Senate Democrats stating objections to President Donald Trump's actions as one lawmaker addresses the floor for over 20 hours. How Oregon Senator Ron Wyden joins in. Plus, death toll from Myanmar earthquake keeps climbing. We have the latest on the rescue effort and the scale of destruction. And an update to legal actions opening up a local lake to public use, where the city of Lake Oswego stands in this debate.
None of the pressure that you put on yourself at the beginning matters because you did it.
And later, how a former track star picked up bobsledding and is now on her way to the Olympics. Your news at noon, it starts right now. Thanks for joining us. I'm China Green. We start with Senator Cory Booker's marathon speech that has gone on for over 20 hours now. Booker began speaking at 4 p.m. our time last night in protests over President Donald Trump's actions involving immigration and other issues since taking office. Some of his Democratic colleagues gave him a break from speaking today by asking him questions. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden joined in.
Since Donald Trump took office, what we have seen in these town hall meetings is fear and terror, and I might add, record turnouts. My question to my friend from New Jersey is, what are you hearing from home?
I'm hearing a lot of fear, a lot of anger. I'm hearing head of hospitals say that this is outrageous, the threats to our hospitals in New Jersey.
The New Jersey senator said that the nation is in a crisis and that he plans to disrupt the normal business of the Senate, quote, for as long as I am physically able. New at noon, attorneys general from 23 states, including Oregon, filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for cutting $11 billion in COVID-related funding. Now, the attorneys general say the sudden loss of funds will threaten the state's ability to track COVID-19 trends and other emerging diseases and provide critical immunization access. They're requesting a temporary restraining order to those funding cuts. In a statement, Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield says this reckless termination of billions of dollars in grants is not just an attack on the states, it's an assault on the well-being of every American. The HHS spokesperson has said the department is prioritizing funding projects that will deliver on President Trump's mandate to address our chronic disease epidemic. And another update at the HHS, employees across the department began receiving notices of dismissal today. The department plans to lay off up to 10,000 people, including researchers, scientists, doctors, and support staff. Officials say some of the eliminated departments may be moved to a new entity called the Administration for Healthy America, or AHA. All right, headed over to Rod Hill now for a look at weather.
First day of April, and China's pretty nice outside. A little cool if you want to be picky for this time of the year. Here's the live shot down in Salem. Pretty much what we're all seeing generally. Partly cloudy skies. Looks like the cherry blossom color is getting past its prime, which is always a little sad to see, but still beautiful. 49 is the number down in Marion County. Partly cloudy and all dry out in the gorge. This is Cathedral Ridge Winery. And by the way, everybody has winds either light to less than 10 miles per hour, including you folks out in the gorge at the noon hour. Nice to see people out at the Oregon Zoo. Temperatures up in the West Hill is at 50 degrees. Calm winds there, and it's also 50 in downtown Portland. We're still eyeing a scattered shower chance anywhere from about 3 o'clock this afternoon through at least the 6 o'clock hour. And then after that, pretty quiet overnight. I have today's high at 56 degrees. Again, China, scattered shower threat just a few hours away. Back to you.
Thank you, Ron. So you may see road signs on your commute like this. Washington State Patrol is asking for the public's help finding Dean Kirby, who was last seen in Kelso in the early morning of March 28th. That is last Friday. We have a picture of what he looks like here, so take a good look at your screen. He's 62 years old, 5'7", 260 pounds with gray hair and brown eyes. Washington State Police say he is not able to return home without assistance. If you see him, call 911. Amtrak is bringing in trains to replace the ones removed from service due to corrosion. 4 new trains will start running between Seattle and Portland later this week. The replacement trains will have limited number of cars, so they're encouraging passengers to book tickets as early as possible to get those seats. In Lake Oswego, city leaders have just decided that they will not appeal a judge's decision to open up the lake to the public. Now, Alma McCarty was at that meeting last night, hearing lots of opinions about who should be able to access the lake.
In Lake Oswego Monday night, dozens packed City Hall to discuss whether to appeal a Clackamas County judge's decision to allow public access to Oswego Lake.
Tonight is also a chance for you all to hear from one another.
At the beginning of March, the judge ordered the city to stop enforcing an ordinance that prohibits public access to the lake through Millennium Plaza Park and to remove barriers to access like boulders and artwork. The Lake Oswego Corporation quickly filed its notice to appeal, but the city was still weighing its options, seeking legal advice and public input.
From what I'm hearing, the tide has really turned, and there's been an outpouring of support for public access to the lake, both inside Lake Oswego and outside.
Ahead of the special meeting, KGW caught up with Todd Prager, one of the plaintiffs in the years-long fight for lake access.
But I think it's symbolic if the city really does want to be an inclusive community, like they say they want to be, to not join this appeal, which is all about exclusion.
While he and others hoped the city would vote against an appeal, several citizens pushed for city council to go through with it.
I believe it's a waste of taxpayers' money and resources.
Together, we can create a more just and united Lake Oswego for all.
I wonder if we are forgetting the good that opening may make possible.
To make Oswego Lake public was a transformative step for LO, and I urge you not to bend to pressure to go backwards.
I think from a legal perspective, an appeal from the city is a necessity.
I'm here to share why, from a water quality perspective, it is in our best interest to appeal the court's questionable decision.
It's really concerning to me, the safety things that can happen, even now with so many boats on the lake.
Ultimately, council decided in a 5-2 vote that an appeal by the city was not worth pursuing. The mayor putting it this way.
I like to say the cat is out of the bag. Folks can enter the lake. They are entering the lake, like they have been entering the lake. And it's really imperative that we work collaboratively on putting guidelines and practices in place so that that can be done safely.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
The city now has 2 weeks to get a safety plan in place, but it's not clear yet what that plan will look like. Republican lawmakers in Salem are backing a bill that aims to do away with vote by mail in Oregon. The bill would make in-person voting on Election Day the standard and require people to show government-issued IDs. 25 years ago, Oregon became the first state in the U.S. to conduct a presidential election by mail. Many of those in support of the bill say that they think the vote by mail leads to fraud, but the vast majority of submitted testimony is opposed to the change.
This bill would have a disproportionate impact on mothers and care providers who rely on the flexibility and accessibility of our current vote-by-mail system.
And if France can do it in a day, so can the state of Oregon.
Thank you.
Let's get back to what we know and stop this fraudulent harvesting of ballots.
Oregon Secretary of State says voter fraud is exceedingly rare. And since Democrats are in power in both the state House and Senate, it's very unlikely that this bill will move forward. In Washington, a program to give books to kids could soon crumble. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library relies on state funding to provide books to newborns until they turn 5. But funding for the program is not included in the state's latest budget proposal. The Imagination Library splits funding costs 50-50 with states to provide books. Washington was the first West Coast state to implement the program in 2022, and more than 120,000 kids in the state utilized the program.
The legislature made that commitment early on that they care about our early learners. They want to offer this amazing, powerful early literacy opportunity to our children in our state. And the expectation when that was enacted was to uphold that.
Imagination Library representatives say that they are still pushing the state legislature to provide $7 million over the next 2 years for the program, but running out of time. The legislative session ends April 27th.